Order. We start with questions to the Minister of the Cabinet Office, Laurence Turner.
Question number 1, please, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
I should start, Mr Speaker, by just referring to my own entries in the Members' Register for royalties to my books, my own background as a historian answering this question, and thank my honourable friend for such an excellent opening question. So he will be pleased to hear that the Government will consider resumption of the official history programme, which I know is of particular interest to him. And indeed, work is continuing on 2 previously commissioned studies, one on the history of the Joint Intelligence Committee and one on the history of the UK's nuclear deterrent.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I draw the House's attention to my Vice-Chairship of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Archives and History. I strongly welcome the statement that the Right Honourable Member has just made to the House. For more than 100 years, the official history programme provided valuable insight on matters such as war, peace and social policy. The Pilling Review did conclude that it should continue, so it's a welcome update that new works will be commissioned. May I ask the Secretary of State if further updates will be given to the House on the progress on commissioning those new works?
Mr Speaker, yes, absolutely, and I think historical perspective improves the work of government 100%. This programme began in 1908, Mr Speaker. It was concentrated then on naval and military matters. It was expanded by Harold Wilson in 1966 to look at peacetime matters as well, and I certainly will update the House on commissioning new works.
Jim Shum.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I thank the Minister very much for that answer? Whenever we go round to get our tickets on a Wednesday for PMQs, you'll see the story of the women's suffragette movement on the wall. What assessment has the Minister made of the importance of teaching the women's suffrage movement as a compulsory component of the official history programme, particularly regarding its role in advancing democratic participation and strengthening pupils' understanding of civic rights and responsibilities such as voting?
I absolutely agree with the honourable gentleman on the importance of teaching the campaign for women's suffrage. I should also update the honourable gentleman as well, seeing as he's asked the question, that the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland is also currently overseeing a significant history project that is akin to the official history programme covering the period of the Troubles.
Right, let us come to Gareth Bacon.
Number 2, Mr Speaker.
Minister, welcome.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. With your permission, I will answer questions 2 and 5 together. The issues and delays facing a number of civil servants and pension scheme members in accessing their pensions after a lifetime of service is completely unacceptable. The Government is overseeing a robust recovery plan for the service and also to ensure there is support available to help those being impacted. My right honourable friend, the Paymaster General, has met the Chief Executive of Capita to set out what the Government expects, and we will do all we can to hold Capita to account to deliver the high standards people deserve.
Mr Speaker, I thank the Minister for her answer because, like many honourable members across all sides of the House, I've been getting correspondence from former civil servants whose payments are being excessively delayed since Capita took over. I note what the Minister says about the Secretary of State meeting with the Chief Executive of Capita, but would she commit to a full review of the service that Capita provided so far, and would she commit to come to this House and either give a verbal statement or a written statement about the actions that are taking place in order to make this work better?
I'd like to thank the member for his question. The priority right now is to ensure that this robust recovery plan is completed and we get a normal service as quickly as possible. Of course, we will continue to update the House.
Votes.
I welcome my honourable friend to her place. My constituents, Richard, Peter and Chris, all plan to retire in January and all gave at least the required notice to get their pension, and I've got many other cases of people waiting as well. Yet January has been and gone, as has February, and despite repeated attempts to receive their pensions and hours in phone queues, these poor people haven't seen a penny. So can the Minister please update me on when she expects a return to proper service levels, and whether she will look at what compensation could be made available by my CSP and Capita to those who face such serious financial hardship?
Minister.
I'd like to thank my honourable friend for raising this issue and express how sorry I am to hear about the distress caused to Richard, Peter and Chris. It is completely unacceptable. There is a timetable in our recovery plan and I encourage her to write to me so the team can look into this particular case. Thank you.
Speaker, a constituent approached me in January having applied for his pension over 6 months prior with no resolution. He has been forced to draw on personal savings simply to get by. Will the government introduce a redress scheme for pensioners that were forced to deplete their own savings or even take out commercial loans?
I'd like to thank the member for raising this issue on behalf of her constituent. There are hardships loans available and there is also a statutory complaints procedure in place that will determine whether compensation is appropriate, and I urge honourable members to direct their constituents to that. Thank you.
Johnson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Our manifesto promised the biggest wave of insourcing for a generation. So can the Minister explain when this will happen? Because Capita aren't going to fix the pension issues for thousands until June this year, according to the Permanent Secretary. And to add insult to injury, Capita have been awarded a contract for the Civil Service payroll contract for 250,000 workers, covering many large government departments. So when is the government going to stop continuing to reward failure by issuing contracts to these outsourced companies?
I'd like to thank my honourable friend for raising this issue. I understand the frustration. She would know that the contract was actually given under the previous government in 2023. I'd like to reassure her that existing KPIs have been enhanced and strengthened to deliver tighter performance expectations and higher penalties for severe failure. These have already applied in respect to Capita's performance with recent issues and delays in administering the civil service pension scheme.
All right.
Mr Speaker, the privatisation of the delivery of the civil service pension scheme has been nothing short of catastrophic. But the government were well warned that Capita were ill prepared for a job of this size, but they pressed ahead regardless. So while Capita must shoulder much of the blame, the Cabinet Office has serious questions to answer for their responsibility in this fiasco. But will the Minister start by apologising to those in my Argyll, Bute and South Lochaber constituency, some of whom after a lifetime of service were left facing penury because of their part in this hopeless mismanagement of this transfer?
I'd like to thank the honourable member for raising this. As I have said, the contract was given under the previous government. We do have the right to hold Capita to account, which we are doing, and I am sorry to hear of the difficulties and distress that his constituents are facing, and I encourage him strongly and all members to be in contact with me and my team so we can look into that and resolve it as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My constituent Stephen retired almost a year ago after a long career in public service and yet still is unable to access his pension. Will ministers meet with me to discuss his case? I appreciate there's a recovery scheme underway, but this is completely unacceptable.
Thank you for raising the case regarding your constituent Stephen. Of course, I will meet with my honourable friend to discuss it further and resolve it as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Dr. Jimson.
Question number 3, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, with your permission, I'll answer questions 3, 14 and 20 together. Since leaving the European Union, never has it been more important that we work alongside the EU in the global context we face. It is in our country's interest to have a stronger trading relationship and stronger security relationship. Our new strategic partnership with the EU is good for bills, good for jobs and good for borders, and we continue our negotiations ahead of the next summit.
Dr. Jimson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members opposite reform promised us that by torching our relationship with Europe, it would make us richer and it would make us stronger. They were wrong on both counts. Higher import barriers, driving up costs by £200, and beyond that as well, a continent whose divisions are wider, making us weaker. So can the Minister set out how he will show, how this government will show the courage needed to build our relationship with Europe, to make life here more affordable and make us stronger?
Mr Speaker, we are building that stronger relationship every week to improve our economic cooperation and drive growth in this country. The EU is our biggest market, and the deals we are negotiating on emissions, on energy trading, on food and agriculture trade will reduce costs for businesses, offer better prices and more choice to consumers.
Mr. Speaker, as my constituents head off to beaches in Barcelona, open-top buses in Barca and city breaks in Copenhagen over Easter, they'll be sending holiday snaps and making calls home to their families. So can the Minister update the House on discussions he's had with his European counterparts on cutting roaming charges for UK travellers, which came back to bite Brits thanks to the Tories' botched Brexit?
Mr. Speaker, those trips sound absolutely wonderful, and I think my honourable friend is right to raise the issue. It impacts many families travelling to Europe. The Government works to strengthen the UK's relationship with the EU on a number of fronts, and I will make sure that this issue is considered as well.
Mr. Speaker, I welcome the Government's changed approach to our vital relationship with the EU, and as a member of the PPA, I know how welcome this has been by our partners in Europe, as well as by my residents in Exeter. Ahead of the next session of the PPA later in March, can the Minister set out what is the agenda for deepening cooperation and trust beyond the agenda agreed at last May's EU-UK summit?
To my honourable friend, at this year's summit, the EU and the UK have agreed commitments over a wide range of areas, from trade, youth opportunities to security and defence cooperation. We're making good progress on all these, but as my honourable friend says, there is now a forward programme when this government will not be restricted by ideology. We take a ruthlessly pragmatic approach across different sectors as to what is in our national economic interest.
Minister Maitland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After at least 15 major U-turns, it is helpful to check which promises the government still intends to keep. So, on the 22nd of July 2024, when I asked the Prime Minister whether he could promise that he would not accept the automatic application of EU rules unless they have been specifically approved by this Parliament, he answered simply yes. So can the Minister say that it's still the government's position that we will not be required to adopt new European Union legislation?
Mr. Speaker, of course there will still be a role for Parliament in the mechanism, and that is set out in the common understanding last May. But let me just say to the honourable gentleman, because the party opposite has to own the choice that they are making here. What we are saying is, on our food and drink agreement, we will take away costs from businesses, we will take away red tape, and we will have a downward pressure on food prices. They will want, at the next election, to put that red tape back and put those costs up. That's their choice, and I welcome the debate with them.
No, the Minister knows very well that the choice was that of the biggest democratic exercise in UK democratic history, and his party promised to respect that referendum, instead is seeking to row back on it. So members of the House and the wider public will have heard that the Minister very clearly did not rule out the UK having to adopt new European Union legislation. Now, he'll know from his time as Shadow International Trade Secretary that we'd never accept a trade agreement, the arbiter being an institution of one side. So can he at least rule out having the European Court of Justice as a body adjudicating in any disputes that follow from his reset?
Mr. Speaker, he hasn't read the common understanding and the mechanism that is set out. There is an independent arbitration panel where the role of the European Court of Justice is restricted to the interpretation of EU law, but not binding on the overall decision of the panel. You ought to read the detail in the agreement. We were talking about history earlier. My best piece of advice to the honourable gentleman is do his research before he asks his questions.
Question number 4, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, since coming into office, this government has established the Ethics and Integrity Commission to strengthen standards across the public sector. The Prime Minister has strengthened the independent adviser's ability to open investigations into ministerial misconduct, and with the Public Office Accountability Bill, we're introducing new duties of candour for public officials with criminal and disciplinary consequences for those that fall short.
Mr. Speaker, over the last 25 years, companies that have donated tens of millions of pounds to political parties have been granted government contracts worth more than £60 billion. Mr. Speaker, I think it is pretty obvious that to the public these cosy, influential and lucrative relationships appear to be the precise opposite of high standards in public life. So does the Minister agree with me that companies donating to political parties should be automatically disqualified from government contracts?
Secretary Jones.
I thank my honourable friend for his question, and I can assure him and the House that under this government, political donations have no bearing on the award of government contracts whatsoever. Public procurement rules require contracts to be awarded fairly and transparently and are rigorously scrutinised to deliver the best value for the taxpayer. And under the Procurement Act of 2023, the government has strengthened measures to be able to take action against those where there's any evidence of wrongdoing.
Good job.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Why did the member for Makerfield resign as a Cabinet Office Minister at the weekend?
I refer you to his statement.
Alex Burkhardt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On his visit to Washington in February last year, the Prime Minister and Peter Mandelson had an undisclosed meeting with US data company Palantir. Palantir at the time was a client of Global Counsel, the company in which Peter Mandelson retained a commanding share, and later that year Palantir received a direct award for £240 million from this government. Given the apparent conflict of interests, will the Minister agree to publish the full details of that meeting in February last year and explain why it wasn't disclosed at the time?
I thank the honourable member for raising this particular contract. Since he's last asked the government this question, we have done some research, and the original contract was awarded by Mr. A. Burkhardt, Mr. Speaker, under the last administration, with a direct ministerial award for the contract that was then renewed at the subsequent awarding that he refers to. And he asked me for the disclosure of information, and that will, of course, be done under the humble address. Alex Burkhardt.
I never had an undisclosed meeting with Palantir, with a person. I never had an undisclosed meeting with Palantir with a man who was advising that company. This is something entirely different, and the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister knows full well it is. There was an undisclosed meeting between the Prime Minister and this company in February last year. That should not have happened. This looks, to all intents and purposes, like a conflict of interests. Will the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister agree to publish this information? He says it's within the scope of the humble address. The humble address was about the appointment of Lord Mandelson. This is not about the appointment of Lord Mandelson. This is about a meeting that the Prime Minister and Mandelson had in February 2025. Will he please publish the details of that meeting and ensure that the new Cabinet Secretary looks in to what happened at that meeting and everything between that meeting and the direct award?
The humble address, Mr. Speaker, does deal with the matters in question, but I just remind the member that the question he's asking about is about the extension of a contract that was awarded under the previous government. To suggest that it was a new contract that had been in any way related to the meeting is incorrect.
Right. Liberal Democrat spokesperson Lisa Smart.
Much, Mr. Speaker. The creation of the government post of Special Representative for Trade and Investment and the appointment of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor to that post raises deeply alarming questions about how previous governments treated powerful men who abused their positions, and we are proud on these benches to have secured the release of all relevant files around that appointment. This government has told us repeatedly that it supports such transparency. So could the Chief Secretary set out both what deadline has been set for the files to be assembled in accordance with the humble address, in order that they be released as soon as police investigations allow, and could he confirm the number of civil servants the government has allocated to this task?
I thank the honourable member for her question. The humble address that was put to the House by the Liberal Democrat benches is being managed by the Department for Business and Trade as the appointing department for the previous role of the Special Envoy for Trade and Investment. The Cabinet Office and the Cabinet Secretary, of course, will be working with the department to bring forward those documents as soon as possible. I'm afraid I don't have to hand the number of officials specifically working on humble addresses, but I can inform the House it's a significantly higher number than it was a few weeks ago. Lisa Small.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Government ministers, including the Prime Minister, have repeatedly told the House that Lord Mandelson should lose his peerage. And yet, weeks on, no concrete steps forward can be seen. No legislation has been brought forward, and even in the face of the appalling allegations, Mandelson appears safe from being thrown out for a breach of the Lord's Code of Conduct. Does the Chief Secretary recognise how preposterous it is that this unelected figure has still not been removed, or how impotent it makes the government look? And does he recognise that what we need isn't just to throw out one disgraced peer or to tinker by abolishing the hereditaries, but root and branch reform of our entire second chamber, including finally making it democratic?
The honourable member is right to make the point that we need to bring forward rules that allow provisions to apply to all and any peers that need to be removed from the other place for particular reasons. That's why the government's not put forward a specific piece of legislation in respect of Lord Mandelson, but is in the process of constructing a bill that will be able to deal with these cases in the round, and I look forward to bringing that bill to the House shortly.
Question 6, Mr Speaker.
Secretary Jones.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. This Labour government is focused on delivering for every part of the country. Over the last few weeks, we have signed a £50 million defence growth deal with the Welsh Government and announced plans to build 7 new Welsh railway stations through £14 billion of investment. We've halved tariffs on Scottish whisky following the Prime Minister's successful visit to China, and we've progressed our child poverty strategy by voting for legislation to remove the 2-child cap, which in Northern Ireland alone will benefit over 17,000 children. In my role as Minister for Intergovernmental Relations, I convene interministerial standing committees regularly with representatives from the devolved government, and we've most recently discussed election security and preparedness for the May elections.
Mr Speaker, my constituents in Gower need both governments focused on what matters to them, the cost of living, jobs and public services. Does the Chief Secretary agree with me that with Labour governments in Westminster and Cardiff, that is exactly what we're getting? And does he agree with me that neither the distraction and ideological fantasies of the Greens nor the division and disruption of reform will help Wales move forward into a new era?
I thank my honourable friend, and the distraction of the Reform Party or the Green Party is not one we have the benefit of this morning, because none of them have come to the chamber to take part in these questions. But she is right to point out that when 2 Labour governments are working together, it delivers real change for people in Wales. After 14 years of a Conservative government that ignored the Welsh government in Wales, we have delivered on rail, on AI growth zones, on defence, on jobs, on the highest level of spending since devolution began to get the NHS waiting lists down, and we will continue to do that, working together with the First Minister, Leonard Morgan, and her team in Cardiff.
David Mundell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Does the Chief Secretary share my profound disappointment that once again the SNP is seeking to frame the Scottish elections as being about a divisive independence referendum rather than about devolved powers on which their record is so woeful?
Hear, hear. I agree, Mr Speaker, that when I go on visits to Scotland to talk to voters preparing for this May elections, they talk to me about the quality of their public services, about how the NHS in Scotland is woefully performing compared to in England, about how the Scottish National Party and government in Scotland will block investment into nuclear energy and jobs, into defence industries and jobs, and that is exactly why, under Anna Sauer as the next Labour First Minister in Scotland, exactly as I've just explained in Wales, it will show the power of 2 Labour governments working together to deliver for the people of Scotland.
Yeah.
7, please, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr Speaker. This government recognises the enormous value of our cooperative sector. It's why the Office of Impact Economy is already working closely with other departments, including the Department for Business and Trade and Treasury, to grow the cooperative sector and maximise its social and economic impact, helping to deliver the promise of national renewal the country voted for at the last election. I personally look forward to working with him in his role as Chair of the Social, Cooperative and Community Economy APPG and the wider sector to build on this.
Patrick Curley.
Thank you, sir. I thank the Minister for that answer. Given the Government's commitment to growing the cooperative sector, will the Minister commit to working across government, specifically with MHCLG, so that high street rental auctions actively prioritise community-owned and cooperative models and ensure that the Office for the Impact Economy is promoting these economies appropriately?
I'd like to thank my honourable friend for raising this. This government is committed to delivering pride in places where we live. High street rental auctions are a really effective new tool for local authorities to do this by bringing vacant high street units back into use, while unlocking opportunities for community organisations to access tenancies at reduced rates. Early adopter councils are making great strides in implementing these new powers and sharing best practice. Myself and the Office of Impact Economy is working closely with MHCLG and other departments to maximise the impact of place-based social and economic delivery.
Blake Stevens.
Question 8, please, Mr Speaker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. They've kept me busy. This government is committed to preserving the civil service proud and long-standing commitment to merit-based appointments, ensuring we have the skills and talent in place to deliver on our priorities. Those seeking to work within our civil service must abide by existing nationality rules, and each department must ensure compliance with UK visa sponsorship rules, which are issued through the Home Office.
Thank you. Can I thank the Minister for that response? Hundreds of public sector bodies, including a number of government departments and arm's length bodies, are registered to sponsored visas, as the Minister will know. Does the Minister agree with me that public sector should lead from the front and only sponsor visas by exception in the cases of hiring truly world-class talent? And can she confirm whether all government departments or arm's length bodies are complying with the guidance that's issued by the Cabinet Office?
I'd like to thank the member for raising this. Of course, we want to champion world-class talent. We want the best talent and to retain it as well. It's actually why we've announced the national score for government to ensure we can do this. I would politely remind the member that actually numbers increased after the points-based system was introduced, which actually made the biggest difference.
Question 9, please, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, the Cabinet Office did provide support to the Department for Work and Pensions in this matter, including sharing the lessons learned from the recent transition of the Civil Service Pension Scheme, which honourable members were discussing a moment or two ago.
Mr Speaker, last week I heard that the government had made Capita the preferred bidder for a £700 million contract for shared services across the government departments. Are they having a laugh? Given Capita's appalling performance in administrating the Civil Service Pension Scheme, which has affected hundreds of my constituents, will the Minister urgently review the procurement process for this contract and commit to bringing this work back in-house to ensure Capita don't mess this contract up as well?
My right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, I know has sought and received specific assurances from Capita regarding the Synergy contract, but members across the House should be in no doubt of this government's desire to hold Capita to account robustly for its responsibilities under its contracts.
Jeff Smith.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Question 10.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Public services should be there for you when you need them, but right now it's too hard to get what you need. The new free-to-access digital ID intends to change that, supporting personalising public services, making everyday life easier for everyone. The consultation will be launched next week to ensure the public can have their say on how we make digital ID work for them.
Jeff Smith.
Thank you, and can I congratulate my honourable friend on his well-deserved elevation to ministerial office. Even though digital ID will make it easier for people to access public services and to engage with public bodies, there's still an awful lot of disinformation and, frankly, conspiracy theory out there trying to undermine the case for it. Does the government have any specific plans to try and counter those narratives as part of the consultation?
I thank my honourable friend for his question and for his well-wishing. I'm grateful too for the opportunity to help dispel any misinformation on this exciting programme of digital transformation of our public services. Let me be clear. This will not be compulsory and there is no central pot of data. In my early conversations already, I have been assured of the security of data by design and the intentions of this plan to make digital ID not compulsory but something people deem for themselves as a must-have. It is for us to rise to this challenge in our design and delivery of it. More broadly, we want to have a national conversation and the upcoming consultation will clearly set out the government's position on this programme.
Susan Murray.
Question 11, Mr Speaker.
Very good. So, Mr Speaker, on the recovery plan, the government has ensured there are hardship loans in place. The government is monitoring and holding Capita to account on that recovery plan. The priority is to stabilise the service, and then, of course, there will be a commercial discussion on cost.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. On the 23rd of February, the Cabinet Office confirmed that hardship loans would not be available to dependents or surviving spouses of the Civil Service Pension Scheme members. This left one of my constituents in Mid-Dumbartonshire alone with 2 children and just 1 income after sadly losing their partner. Can the Minister explain to me how much it would have cost to provide support to dependents? And can they tell me how many people are left without support as a result of this decision?
Mr Speaker, on the very concerning case she raises, I'd be grateful if she would write to me specifically. I'm more than happy to look into it. The objective here is firstly to try and ensure people are not left without support. But I should also say to the House on Capita, the Cabinet Office has already withheld monies from them for not meeting milestones, and our contractual rights are reserved both in respect of Capita but also in respect of the previous provider, MyCSP.
Christine Sullivan.
Mr Speaker, question 12.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Government strongly supports inclusive PPE for all workers and welcomes the new BSI standard. Central Government commercial teams have seen increased provision of inclusive PPE across major programmes and projects. I know how seriously the Honourable Member takes this issue, so does this Government, and I hope to meet with her very soon to discuss it further.
Christine Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Minister for his response. With the Government on a mission to build 1.5 million new homes and invest billions in upgrading critical infrastructure, fit-to-form PPE is more important than ever for the expanding workforce. The Government has the opportunity to embrace BS 30417 and use the State's substantial purchasing power to increase employee safety through inclusive PPE for all. Will the Government commit to becoming an early adopter of the standard and lead industry by example?
Can I thank her for that question? And my honourable friend is absolutely right. Fit-to-form PPE is vital to protect all workers, and I agree that there's an opportunity for government to do more here. The new standard, we think, will contribute to good practice. We welcome it, and we're going to monitor how that proceeds. I understand the BSI are also presenting on this specifically in the construction sector soon. As I say, we are due to meet very shortly, and I'd like to discuss how we can take it forward.
Number 13, Mr Speaker.
Minister, welcome.
Mr Speaker, we are working with our allies to counter cyber threats, most recently using sanctions against Chinese tech companies and Russian cyber criminals. The National Crime Agency has arrested and charged those responsible for the reckless cyber attack on Transport for London. Our new Lock the Door campaign provides practical ways for organisations to protect themselves from online threats. And in the spring, the great city of Glasgow will host Cyber UK, where the government will launch the National Cyber Action Plan.
Martin Rhodes.
I thank the Minister for his response. I recently chaired a round table which produced a report from Fortinet, a cyber security firm based in my constituency. The report highlights both the opportunities and risks of cyber resilience as we transition to Great British Railways. Does the Minister agree what public procurement has a crucial role to play in ensuring our railways are secure by design, and that government must keep pace with the evolving cyber threat to our critical national infrastructure?
Well, Mr Speaker, I completely agree with my honourable friend. Public procurement is an important tool that ensures the UK's cyber security. On Great British Rail, the Department for Transport works with partners across government and the rail sector to improve the understanding of cyber risk. And I would, of course, be pleased to pass a copy of the report he mentions to the relevant minister to ensure it can be considered as part of this work.
Mr Speaker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Government is determined to ensure our £400 billion a year procurement budget supports British businesses. The Cabinet Office has published a Digital Data and Technology Playbook, which provides guidance on how to source and contract digital data and technology projects. This includes guidance for all departments, including the Department for Health and Social Care.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. We've seen the devastating impacts of cyber attacks on British companies and in the NHS in the past, and there are serious concerns about the NHS data being entrusted on external firms such as Parliamentary. What steps is my right honourable friend taking to ensure new NHS IT systems are both secure, ethically governed, protecting patient data and public trust, and British where possible?
Can I thank her for raising that? She raises a very serious point and it builds on the last question I think that my honourable friend, the Security Minister, was answering on, and also on digital ID. If it's okay with her, I will write back to her about the steps the Department's taking and how we're working across government on this important matter.
Tom Hayes.
Number 16, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Sorry, hang on. 1 second, sorry. As part of our new partnership with the EU, we are currently negotiating an agreement to link emissions trading schemes. This will lower costs for businesses and consumers, and alongside the food and drink deal mentioned previously, this will add £9 billion a year to our economy. My right honourable friend, the Minister for the Cabinet Office, speaks regularly with Commissioner Sefcovic on this, and we will keep the House updated on progress.
Tom Hayes.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The EU's carbon budget amendment mechanism came into being on the 1st of January. It affects IFA 2 connector, which connects Britain and France, and I visited recently. It's a trade block for UK electricity exports to the EU, imposing costs on exporters of £2.2 billion, and it robs the Treasury of up to £8 billion at a time when we need that money to invest in our public services and have a stronger buffer against external shocks. Does the Minister agree with me that we shouldn't be shooting ourselves in the foot and throwing away money like the Conservatives would, but instead we should be boosting trade, boosting energy security, boosting our national security, and seeking an exemption from CBAM?
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And look, what's at the heart of this negotiation that my honourable right honourable friend is leading on is how we reduce bills, how we ease the route to decarbonisation, and how we also reduce our reliance on volatile fossil fuel markets, which, as we've seen in the last week, is not just a national security issue, but it's a cost of living issue as well. It's why we're working so hard on it, and why it's broadly welcomed by so many businesses as well.
Luke Murphy.
Question 17, Mr Speaker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Government is committed to delivering strong, stable and growing economy to every region in our country. This includes bringing high-quality civil service roles to towns and cities across the country, which not only will bring over 880 million in local economic benefits, but also ensure the civil service better reflects the communities we serve.
Luke Murphy.
For her answer, it's fantastic to see her on the front bench for what I think is her first parliamentary questions. Two of the things my constituents care most about are increasing their living standards and improving their public services. Both things depend on economic growth. Could the Minister set out how the reforms set out by the Chief Secretary earlier this year to the civil service, including on the National School of Government, is going to help drive that economic growth and meet the priorities of my constituents?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. As a fellow Hampshire MP, I'm pleased my honourable friend continues to champion the cause for our wonderful region. The Government is already working to improve living standards for individuals and families in his constituency and across the UK. The civil service play a crucial role in ensuring we continue to deliver on this. The National School of Government will ensure we nurture talent, give opportunities to more communities outside of London, and we have the people with the best skills to deliver on our priorities.
Russell.
Question 18, Mr Speaker.
Mr Speaker, in November the Government introduced the Cyber Security and Resilience Bill to protect essential digital services from cyber attacks and enable the Government to better respond to new cyber threats. In the spring, we will publish the National Cyber Action Plan, which will strengthen our resilience, tackle the threat and maximise the opportunities for growth in the cyber sector.
Sarah Russell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Thank you to the Minister. We have seen in recent days that Iran is bombing data centres across the Middle East, and that we are well aware that there have been problems with cyber attacks by non-state and state-backed actors from Iran. Can the Minister please outline what is being done by the Government and the National Cyber Security Centre to deal with this increased threat?
That's a good question. Mr Speaker, let me assure my honourable friend that the Government is absolutely committed to strengthening the UK's resilience. We've invested in the Government Cyber Coordination Centre, a leading cross-government service that is actively monitoring vulnerabilities and enabling a more effective response to the threats. The National Cyber Security Centre is monitoring closely the situation in the Middle East and directly engaging with the sectors, providing immediate sector-specific information and advice.
Question 19, sir.
Secretary Jones.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. As I've outlined previously, work is ongoing across government departments to identify the material relevant to the humble address. Throughout this process, the Government has recognised the urgency and seriousness of fully complying with that address, and that's why we'll be publishing relevant materials in tranches, the first of which we have committed to publishing in early March.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So can the Minister confirm whether the head of the Government's Propriety and Ethics team was appointed without an external recruitment process or written ministerial sign-off in an apparent breach of its own rules? And if so, is this not further proof of the lack of transparency and accountability and a failure to uphold the propriety and ethics at the heart of this Government?
No and no.
Peter Swallow.
Question 21, please.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, disinformation by hostile state actors, particularly from Russia, is an immediate and evolving threat, characterised by divisive information operations and the manipulation of public discourse. In response, the Government has sanctioned 38 organisations for information warfare since 2024, enforced the Online Safety Act and built media literacy skills for young people to critically engage with information. Most recently, the UK sanctioned 3 foreign information and manipulation targets responsible for destabilising Ukraine and seeking to undermine European democracy.
Please swallow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, Meta appeared in front of the Human Rights Committee, and when I pressed them on their role in safeguarding democracy, they were unable to say that they were doing enough to prevent foreign actors using social media to undermine our democratic rights and freedoms. This week, we've had the second reading of the Representation of the People Bill, which seeks to strengthen our democracy. Does my honourable friend agree we need to use this opportunity to get together with to get tougher with social media companies? I only wish we could get together with them, get tougher on them, who are not doing enough about foreign interference on their platforms.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I do agree with my honourable friend that social media platforms have a very important role to play in safeguarding our democracy. The foreign interference offence is a priority offence under the Online Safety Act, which places duties on social media platforms to tackle illegal content. It requires platforms to take proactive action to identify and minimise their users' exposure to state-linked interference. But I can say to my honourable friend that we will not hesitate to go further to protect our citizens and our democracy from this threat.
To Topicals, Mayo Alba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question number 1.
Secretary Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I take this opportunity to welcome my honourable friends, the member for Southampton Test back from maternity leave, and the member from Bury North for his dispatch box debut, as well as Baroness Anderson in the other place who's joined the Cabinet Office team today. As my honourable friend has said, next week we'll be launching a national conversation to ensure the public has their say on how digital ID can be used to make modern public services. Digital ID will be free to access, secure, and make it easier to prove who you are when logging into the gov.uk app. Over time, government by app, much like with banking and shopping, will become a reality with quicker, easier and more secure access to public services at the touch of a button, ensuring that our public services are there for people when they need them.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for their response. Small businesses are the backbone of our local economies, but in my constituency of sunny Southend East and Rochford, they are being held back by traffic congestion on the A127. What steps is the Minister taking to ensure that local infrastructure projects like a new link road for South East Essex are receiving cross-party prioritisation to drive SME productivity and growth?
Can I thank him for that? He mentions the A127. I could mention the A259 in sunny Brighton as well, but for the same hold-ups. But we won't dwell too much. But look, he's right that we need to do more to support SME growth and productivity, and to free up opportunity across the country. We've recently changed procurement rules to make sure more money is kept in local communities and more power as well. We will publish further plans soon, and I hope the Department for Transport also heard his point about a new link road.
Right, Alex Burkout, Shadow Secretary of State.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, in light of the new China spy case, I asked the Security Minister to place China on the enhanced tier of the Foreign Influence Registration Scheme. He told us that FIRS was a, quote, relatively new tool, and that the government is seeking to ensure that we can derive the maximum operational capability from it, which is a wonderful Whitehall language, Mr. Speaker. Will the Security Minister please tell us what that means?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the arguments with regard to FIRS are well rehearsed, but I am old enough to remember when members opposite said we wouldn't introduce FIRS. Then they said that we would introduce it later than we'd previously said. We introduced FIRS on time, but it is still a relatively new capability. I think it offers considerable potential in terms of what it will deliver for our country, but we're looking very closely at how we can ensure the maximum operational capability. I think that's pretty clear in any language.
Yeah. So, well, it's not very clear, Mr. Speaker, because FIRS is 3 years old, and this morning I spoke to my right honourable friend for Tunbridge and Malling, who established FIRS. When he was establishing it, MI5 told him that it was essential for understanding the operation of the Chinese state in the UK. The enhanced tier would impose mandatory registration and transparency requirements on individuals and organisations in the UK working with Chinese entities. I think most people in this House would now agree that that was entirely necessary. It is there to help our security services protect our country. Please, will the Security Minister give us a date by which he will come back to this House to tell us definitively whether he will put China on the enhanced tier and set out his explanation?
Well, Mr. Speaker, on a simple point of fact, FIRS is not 3 years old. We came into government and FIRS was not a properly developed system. It was this, well, honourable members opposite may groan, it is a statement of truth to say that FIRS was not ready to go, and it was this government that got a grip and introduced that tool. It came into force, in effect, on the 1st of October last year. We've already placed 2 countries on the enhanced tier. We take these decisions very carefully, but I do give him a commitment that I will come back when there is a requirement to do so and update the House on any further decisions that we seek to make with regard to FIRS.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government deals with a huge number of arm's-length public bodies of variable value and levels of success. Can I ask what progress the ministers are making on tackling the number and effectiveness of those arm's-length public bodies?
I'd like to thank my honourable friend for that really important question. We have undertaken an arm's length body review and is making serious progress. We've already seen NHS England removed to make sure that we bring our important services under democratic control. And I think there's also a huge amount of savings that we're looking to undertake on this. And I look forward to updating the House and my honourable friend on its progress shortly.
John Lamont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thousands of former public sector workers are facing delays to their pension payments. Both my CSP and Capita have catastrophically failed as the administrators of these pension funds. But the real failure is the Cabinet Office's inability to negotiate contracts that include financial sanctions to drive up performance. So what's the Minister going to do to sort it out?
Mr. Speaker, both contracts that the honourable gentleman is referring to were negotiated by the previous government. So you might want to reflect upon that. But can I just say to him in relation to where we are? In relation to both contracts, we are reserving our contractual rights under both. But let me just say in respect of Capita, the Cabinet Office has already withheld payments from Capita for not meeting particular milestones. So you can rest assured we will use every lever under these contracts to enforce them.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the Minister join me in congratulating Ryan Cornish and Elliot Prentice, who are BCP's members of Youth Parliament, and their deputies Ruth Simpkins and Lily Bedwell on a fantastic year. They haven't just participated in our democracy, they've actually strengthened our democracy locally, and I know this is something the government would support.
Can I thank my honourable friend and join him in passing on his congratulations to his constituents. Youth Parliament plays an important role in our democracy and engaging young people in it, and with Mr. Speaker's consent has the benefit of coming into this chamber to experience what it's like. And the good news is that I think that we've already got members of the Youth Parliament who have become members of Parliament as a consequence of that experience. It didn't warn them off, Mr. Speaker, and we look forward to welcoming more of them in future generations.
Tony Cross.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While we rightly will want to refrain from discussing too many of the details of a live espionage case, it does seem from media reporting that this goes beyond a case of just foreign state interference into local corruption. Will the government today agree to publish a list of all meetings held between Bute Energy and the government, both here in Westminster and in Wales?
The Honourable Lady is right that there's a counter-terror police operation underway, so it would be wrong for me to comment from the dispatch box, but I can reassure her and the House that the Government will cooperate fully with that investigation, and when we are able to provide further updates, we will do so.
Tom Rutland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week we've seen volatility in the global energy markets following the escalation of conflict across the Middle East. Will the Minister set out how, in the face of global turbulence, it will deepen cooperation and trade with the EU, as well as our allies across the world, something my constituents are very keen to see?
My honourable friend makes a really important point. With the EU specifically, we've of course agreed an ambitious security and defence partnership. We're negotiating a deal on carbon emissions trading. We're in exploratory talks over an electricity agreement. All these things assist our economic and energy security, and the party opposite are opposed to it.
Lochaber.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There should be no issue in our civil service being paid their pensions, but like 56,000 people are not being received their pensions from Capita. My constituent, Errol MacDonald, is one of them, and he's due to retire at the end of the month, and despite countless messages to this department, he has not even received his pension quote yet. And my team has no way of escalating this matter. So what reassurance can he provide that the backlog will be cleared and my constituent and all constituents will receive their pensions in full and on time in the coming weeks?
Mr. Speaker, there is a robust recovery plan in place, but the specific case that the honourable gentleman raised, please could he ask his staff to escalate it up to me and I will look at it.
Adam Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Over the past few months, I've been involved in the new Long Eaton Business Partnership, which is bringing together business owners, private investors, health investors and local politicians. And the goal is to shape the future of our town and revive Long Eaton's town centre. Can the Minister tell us more about her work then, through the new Office for the Impact Economy, to collaborate with social investors and philanthropists, bringing funding to local communities?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I pay tribute to his and the important work being done by the new Long Eaton Business Partnership. This is exactly the kind of projects in place where the Office of Impact Economy works to add value, and I am very happy to meet with him and discuss how this can be maximised in his constituency to improve their neighbourhood for their constituents. Thank you.
John Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given the progress made by the Infected Blood Compensation Authority, could the Paymaster General update the House, given that over £140 million has been spent by the inquiry, whether he's had any conversations with Sir Brian Langstaff about when it would be the right time to close down that inquiry, and whether he's got wider lessons for the way that public inquiries function?
I'm very grateful to the Right Honourable Gentleman, again pay tribute to his work over some time on this matter. He's right to highlight the significant progress that's been made in terms of the speed of payments. And I think he also highlights a really important point about how we are going to learn lessons. It's really important to learn lessons about public inquiries, their length and providing value for money going forward.
By Bethard.
Mr. Speaker, we're looking forward to welcoming the Secretary of State at the Haemophilia and Contaminated Blood APBG in the near future. But in the meantime, he knows my constituent Mary Grinley. She's been a prominent campaigner. She lost her husband and has campaigned for over half her life since then for compensation. She's recently been in touch with me to say that those making claims for the loss of loved ones are concerned about the speed with which payments are being made at this moment in time. I wonder if not now, if he could update the House on how progress is being made in paying those who were affected rather than those infected.
Yes, so the milestones that were set out in terms of paying infected people were indeed met by the end of 2025. Indeed, the first payment to an affected person was also on time and made before the end of last year. My honourable friend is absolutely right that we are now moving into a new phase of paying affected people, which is going to clearly be a larger number, and I will, of course, happily write to him with the precise figures on that.
Charlie Jewist.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In light of the arrest of 3 individuals yesterday in relation to Chinese espionage, can the Minister confirm that security vetting for all special advisers is up to date?
I thank the honourable member for his question. He'll remember from the statement I previously gave to the House that we're reviewing this policy area, as well as other areas in terms of transparency and lobbying returns, as well as the work of the Ethics and Integrity Commission, and will come forward with further updates in due course.
Rachel Mascom.
Mr Speaker, the York Central 45-hectare development site will be the most powerful outside of London. The government have twice announced that it will have a government hub. However, the GPA has not signed that off. The development is going to planning in May. Can the Minister give me an update as to when we will hear the good news for York?
Can I thank the Honourable Member for her question? The Cabinet Office and government departments are in the process of concluding their business planning processes before the start of the new fiscal year, and so an update will be available very soon.
And the message, actually.
The National Security Advisor, Jonathan Powell, commenced his current role on the 2nd of December 2024, and that was announced on the 8th of November 2024. I appreciate the Ministers won't have this information to hand, but I would appreciate if you could write to me and confirm when the National Security Advisor was granted his security clearance for that role.
I'll take the question away, Mr Speaker.
Mr Speaker, earlier this week, those of us on the Public Administration and Constitutional Affairs Select Committee took evidence from the Cabinet Office on the significant issues with the administration of the Civil Service Pension Scheme that are plaguing many of our constituents. It was quite clear that poor contract management played a role, particularly in building up a significant backlog of cases ahead of that problematic transfer to Capita. So can the Minister outline what steps are being taken to improve contract management of private suppliers in the Cabinet Office so this doesn't happen again?
I'm grateful to Honourable Friend indeed for the work that PACAC is doing on this. As I've indicated, our first priority is to deal with the immediate situation through hardship loans and indeed then through a robust recovery plan. But my Honourable Friend is absolutely right. Management of these contracts and indeed robust enforcement of contractual terms is going to be absolutely vital going forward.
Gregory Staff.
Mr Speaker, a few moments ago the Chief Secretary of the Prime Minister indicated to me that the appointment of the head of the Propriety and Ethics team was done by an external recruitment process. So will you tell me how many other people were interviewed?
The Honourable Member, if he makes reference to his previous question, asked me if it was in a breach of the rules, and I said no. The head of Propriety and Ethics, as I've already said to the House in previous questions, is on an interim basis, which is fully in line with the rules, and a proper recruitment process will take place shortly.
Thank you. There are still serious questions to answer on the administration of the Civil Service Pension Scheme. When my constituent Campbell tragically died in April last year, his wife Gaynor waited months to receive the death and service payment. In December, they found out that my CSP paid it to the wrong bank account. I've written to the Minister about this particular case. Will my honourable friend intervene to make sure Capita pay Gaynor without further delay?
Yes. I'm happy to look into the individual case, but I repeat, on both of these contracts, whether it's the existing Capita contract or indeed my CSP's previous responsibilities, the Government reserves its right under both these contracts to take these matters up.
Police question. Well, you better stand up and just ask me. Point of order.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Sorry to return to this subject. It's very clear that the Government does not wish to have an investigation into what happened at the meeting between Lord Mandelson and the Prime Minister and Palantir, and everything that occurred between that and the direct award that was given to Palantir later in the year. But this is very clearly a possible conflict of interests. Given that the Government does not wish to investigate this, what is at the disposal of this House to force such an investigation?
I think you already know. The Honourable Member, can I thank for his point of order? As we all know, he's a very experienced member of the House, and I know he's already tabled a written parliamentary question on this matter. I expect the ministers to give a full and frank answers, and if he requires further advice on the options available to him, I'm happy to pursue this matter with the clerks and the table office, and I'm always happy to meet with the honourable member and see how we can move things forward. But I would believe it will be honest and open. Only thing I would expect is an early answer to the questions and not got lost in the system.